Hi, everyone. It's Laura Haines here with JB Training Solutions, and I am very excited to share with you a sneak peek of our leading Gen Z content. I am really excited about this content. I led a lot of the instructional design and research for it, and what we are finding is that it is timely. In fact, leaders in all sorts of organizations are saying, yup, this is great. This is exactly hitting on the tone that we're seeing when it comes to leading an engaged new workforce. As we look at leading Gen Z, what we know to be true is that we are officially a four-generation workforce today. Baby boomers, 1946 to 1964, Gen X, 1965 to 1980, millennials, 1981 to 1995, and Gen Z now, 96 to 2010. Now we have other generational workshops that cover all four. This particular course is really geared to if you are leading 20 somethings, those Gen Zs in the workplace, how can you set a successful culture? Because what we know to be true is that by 2030, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics is predicting Gen Z is going to be 1/3 of the workforce. It's coming up quick. In this action packed course, we talk through the dynamics. What are we seeing that has impacted Gen Z? What are some of the big trends and key characteristics that are showing up in a work environment? And finally, some very tangible, very specific tips and tools for how you can effectively lead not just Gen Z, but really what we believe the future of work and leadership strategies is going to look like. As we look at Gen Z, we're going to cover where do some of these nuances come from? One generation is not right or wrong, but what we know to be true is that in those really impactful years, think age 14 to 22, the technology that you are using, the current events that are happening, and social and cultural changes can have a huge impact on your preferences in a work environment. I'm just going to share this with you from this section. Gen Z is as old as Google. Let's just take a minute to think about that. Can you imagine a world where you, from the first moment you get a phone in your hand, can Google an answer? Anything that you're interested in, you can Google and see pages upon pages of different thoughts and perspectives. This is going to have a profound impact on your preference for how quickly you receive information, how you research, how you weigh multiple options, and what that looks like in a work setting. That's just one example of some of the dynamics we'll talk through in the full workshop. But for the sake of this demo, what I want to show you is one of our content pieces when it comes to leading Gen Z. I'm going to start right here. I want you to think about your first day at work. Maybe for you, this was years ago. Maybe you just recently started at your current company. What was it like? Were you nervous? Did you think through your outfit? Did you think if you were on site, when can I go to the bathroom? What about a lunch break? Can I put on my headphones? Should I talk to people in the hall, or is it more of a culture of, hey, just kind of get your work done? As we start to think about all of those nuances, what's coming up for you? Now I want you to think about what that experience might be for many individuals who have started their career in the last couple years. How different might that look if your orientation is virtual and you never meet individuals in person? Or when you do, it's your first time ever in an office because your internship was remote, while everyone else seems to have already been in an office for years. The big takeaway here is when it comes to leading Gen Z, clear as kind, we have this tendency to say, hey, I don't want to micromanage. Or it might even sound more like this feels like common sense. But what we are seeing and we know to be true is it might not be common sense. We may not have those skill sets if we're entering the workforce in the first couple of years right now in a post 2020 virtual hybrid world that can feel like common sense and clear as kind. And this also comes into play when it comes to your career. In fact, one thing we're finding is this. Gen Z is saying, look, I'm ready for the challenge, but how do I get there from where I am today? I took the prep courses. I did the internships. I've done everything I was told to do. I'm ready, but just help me out with that internal stuff. And so I want to challenge anyone to remove, I would never do that from your vocabulary. Maybe it's, I would never show up to a virtual meeting with my camera off and not speak. Maybe it's, I would never wear that to work. I would never share that in a one-on-one. Whatever it is that's coming up for you right now, identify it And think about clear as kind. That is a great opportunity to reset those conversations. What we know to be true is Gen Z gets it. They're like, look, it's going to be hard. To be successful, it's going to take a lot of work, and I'm ready for it. But I need your help with what that internal navigation looks like. I am looking to you as my leader to help me see what does it mean to be successful. And so I want to challenge you to think about what are your expectations? If we know clear is kind, what does a successful meeting look like in person and virtual? What does successful short-term correspondence look like, whether it's an email? How do we leverage subject lines? How long should they be? What tone should they hit? Maybe it is through chat. If you are finding that you're like, every time I look at my chat, there's 20 messages, reset the expectation, clear as kind. Say, it would actually be really helpful. Can you bundle your messages or schedule 10 minutes with me to talk it through? And relationships, when someone's in the office, do you want them to be building relationships? How do you want them to engage? When it's virtual, what does that look like? What does success on your team look like? We cannot over communicate this because clear is kind. As we look at this, one of the big tension points that tends to come up is just pick up the phone, just have the conversation. And it's important to keep in mind when we think about what can impact a generational cohort. This is a generation that has learned in formative years how powerful leveraging technology can be to take care of conflict, whether it's a breakup through a text. It is using a customer service chat platform to take care of an issue, or even just leaving a bad review. If at your company, bringing issues to the forefront, either on camera or in person, is how someone's going to be set up for success, what does that look like? There might be some soft skill coaching. There might be some practice that has to take place because clear is kind. So share what those communication norms look like in your organization, whether it is on a computer, in person, using a phone, using email, you name it. I promise it's going to be a great conversation. In the full workshop, we're going to challenge you to think about that. You might brainstorm and talk with your fellow peers and colleagues about, hey, what does success look like here? How can we be more clear about what that is? And we want to challenge you to make sure you do that and you carry that through. There's one more tip I want to share with you today, because what we are finding is that we have room as a culture of leaders to be more clear in our expectations. And this is for any generation. Standard expectations, we cover the scope of the work, the timeline, and resources. Here's what I'm asking. Here's how big the project is. Here's what I need it done. Here's what you need. And it works. But if we understand that clear is kind, what if we instead adopt what we call the START model for setting expectations, where we still set that scope up front. We still are crystal clear on that timeline, but we also talk through autonomy. Do we want someone to choose their own formatting, make decisions without checking in? Are we saying, look, I just want you to take this and run with it. Don't worry about checking in. Don't worry about showing it to me. I trust you completely. And when we do a midpoint check-in, that's when I'll see where you're at. If so, that's okay. Clear as kind. But how independent do you want someone to be as they're tackling a project? If you want them to take it and run with it, and hey, no news is good news, make sure that's clear. And as well, you may want to talk through how that skill set is really helping someone grow their career. You want an engaged team. And what we find is that most of the factors that impact engagement on a team have to do with, do you feel like your leader sees you and cares about your career? And so the more you can say, look, a report like this is really critical to this role, or by working on this presentation, you're going to give visibility to a lot of key stakeholders. The more, as you're setting those expectations, you can add autonomy and trajectory, the stronger those relationships are going to be. So this is just one example of the kind of content we discuss in Leading Gen Z, with a lot of hands-on activities worked in throughout. As we think about this, our big takeaways within this workshop is how important it is to recognize key values across all generations. One's not better or worse, but they can be different. How important it is to share those clear expectations, how to find that balance of empathy, showing up authentically, what that looks like, but also that accountability to create a successful culture. what growth opportunities can look like realistically, and the importance of authenticity. Thanks so much for listening to this demo where I gave you a highlight of what it means to understand some of those dynamics and some very key success tips for leading Gen Z. Again, I'm Lora Haines with JB Training Solutions, and I am so excited to bring this content to you. And we hope to see you one day at your organization.